Hello everybody, Adam Monk here again from FourFourTwo, back with another Friday show. And a Good Friday as well this time, of course, and a bank holiday as well, if you're living in the UK. Yeah, bank holidays. For some reason when I was a kid, I used to think that it was where, like, families would go on, like, fun day trips to, like, NatWest and RBS. Yes, probably why I didn't go uni. But of course, with the Friday show, we often look at how an underdog can win a particular game of football. Now, this weekend, it is the big one, Manchester City versus Arsenal. When you could argue, you know, there's no real underdog for that game with both sides being a point off each other at the top of the table. But if you apply the context that Arsenal haven't won at the Etihad Stadium since 2015, that's 9 years ago, and the additional context, the additional record that they've got to break, that Rodri is currently on a 61 unbeaten game streak in all competitions whilst playing for Manchester City. And of course Arsenal won earlier this season, but Rodri was suspended and Kovacic was at defensive midfield, and that kind of got exposed. So let's look at how Arsenal can feasibly win at the Etihad. But I mean, you know, let's be honest as well, a draw would be a fantastic result for the Gunners too. Let's crack on.
Don't say crack, Jez, yeah? Please, not now.
Now, the thing of utmost importance for any team that's playing Manchester City, not just Arsenal, is the team's off-the-ball shape and how they try and nullify Manchester City when Manchester City have the ball. And Arsenal actually did a fantastic job of this at the Emirates Stadium earlier this season, which we'll look at in a minute. But Arsenal's defensive stats, I mean, they've got the best defence in the league, so it's a brilliant foundation for them to build this off-the-ball shape around. Here's some of the defensive stats from October when Arsenal won 1-0 against Manchester City at the Emirates Stadium. Now, these are the tackling stats in particular, which paint a picture of how Arsenal really won the ball when they were off of it. There was 20 tackles made and 12 were won in total, but if you break up where those tackles were committed on the pitch, it paints a picture as to Arsenal's off-the-ball shape. There was 5 tackles made in their defensive third, 9 in the middle of the park, and then 6 in Manchester City's own attacking third, which meant that they were pressing very high and trying to suffocate City when they had the ball in their backline. So how did they do this? On the ball in this game, City kind of employed a 2-3-5 formation, you could say, with Kyle Walker and Josko Gvardiol really hugging the width and pushing up as far as they possibly could when in possession of the ball. And to counteract that, Arsenal kind of shaped up in a narrow 4-4-2 formation, you might say, hugging the middle of the pitch and tucking those wingers, Martinelli and Saka, out wide inside to suffocate the middle of the park and force City to utilise these wide positions. And the primary reason that Arsenal deployed this system was to try and nullify Manchester City in the middle of the park and when their eights received the ball in those kind of pockets of space, the likes of Phil Foden in this game, but also at the Etihad, of course, it will be Kevin De Bruyne too this time. And what actually worked really well for Arsenal in this game was a very high-risk, high-reward individual strategy where anytime Phil Foden would pick up the ball, for instance, in that pocket of space in the 8, Ben White would come out from the right-back position and try and nick the ball off him from behind him as quickly as possible for that turnover of possession. So they did not... The primary target for Arsenal in this game was to not let City's number 8s have any breathing time on the ball, any time to turn, any time to pick out a pass. They're going to have to do that again at the Etihad, especially now Kevin De Bruyne is fit. Of course, he wasn't in this game at the Emirates. They're going to have to do this again, otherwise City will just kill them. Of course, though, this does come with a trade-off, and that trade-off will be City having a bit of an advantage and a bit more space on those wide positions. This likely means that you'll see Rodri from the 6th position pinging those balls over to the likes of Jack Grealish on the left-hand side, and probably Kyle Walker, who'll be pushed up, hugging the width on the right.
This sucks, man.
So, if Arsenal successfully pack the middle of the park, this will likely force Rodri to spread those balls out to Kyle Walker on the right, stroke Bernardo Silva, and then Jack Grealish, now he's fit, probably on the left-hand side, which then in return should force City to have to play quite direct to Erling Haaland, which against most teams will sound like a terrifying prospect, but when you've got Gabriel and Saliba, it's a battle that you could come out on top of. These two are without a doubt the best centre-back pairing in the league this season that have consistently played alongside each other. The stats are there to back it, of course. They've conceded the least goals in the league, but these two head-to-head against each other, and the stats are so similar, really. The aerial duels won there, there's only 8 in it, and there's only 0.15% of a difference in terms of the aerial duel success. The only real stats with any disparity are the ground duels won and the blocks, of which Gabriel has more, and this could maybe paint the picture that Saliba is a bit more of a Rolls Royce, a bit more kind of Van Dijk-esque, where he sort of has the pace to be able to stand off and keep a striker at arm's length really and not have to commit as much as Gabriel. But they're both phenomenal centre-backs and they complement each other so well, but it's really that aerial duels won stat there that means that they will be able to have a bloody good go at pocketing Mr. Erling Haaland. And Gabriel and Saliba, I think, are the real reason that Arsenal have reason to be confident in this game of not losing it at least, because these are their defensive stats this season as a collective Arsenal. 24 goals conceded, which is the best in the league. 11 clean sheets, which is also the best in the league. And their XG against is just 0.71, which is actually the best in the league out of any team as well. So they're basically just first for every stat, and it's because of them with a little bit of Declan Rice, of course, sprinkled in as well. But Saliba and Gabriel have been so good this season that really it's time now to step up to the plate and stop Manchester City, which, you know, Chelsea have done, Tottenham have done, Crystal Palace have done at the Etihad. It is doable for Arsenal, absolutely. So how are Arsenal going to get the ball in the onion bag, so to speak? Well, as a Manchester City fan, the answer's probably not Gabriel Jesus. I watched that man for 5 years and he can't finish. I'm sorry. I'm not even going to do any analysis. The guy can't finish, so forget him. Honestly, the timing of Gabriel Jesus' runs at Manchester City with that off the pace that he was receiving through balls from Stephen Ireland. Now, I can't believe I'm actually about to say this, but if you look at the background here, there should be a sign around here that says Adam loves Havertz, right? And some background behind that. Basically, one of my lovely colleagues, Mr. Mark White, is an Arsenal fan. And me and him have been having a bit of back and forth for a few months now about how good a footballer Kai Havertz is. And he said at times, yeah, I think he gives something to Arsenal, but I'm not sure what it is. And then I kind of went, well, I don't think he gives anything to Arsenal. I think he's rubbish. But then eventually, I was kind of proved wrong, because the stats show, and what I've seen with my eyes in the last few weeks shows that he is actually giving quite a lot to Arsenal. So I think the answer to goals could be Mr. Kai Havertz.
Good point. Yeah. First sensible thing you've said all day. Yeah.
And of course, as we know, he's kind of, not in a like-for-like way, but he's replaced Granit Xhaka in this Arsenal side. Granit Xhaka was, of course, a bit more of a box-to-box midfielder, but Kai Havertz really is a bit more of a late arriver into the box and a bit of a creative link man. You could maybe liken him to more of a number 8, maybe. But when compared to Martin Ødegaard here, of course, Martin Ødegaard is in the blue, you can see that they both kind of provide similar things to Arsenal. They're both creative players, they both pull strings, but if you actually look at the stats that Havertz is winning on, you've got his expected goals per 90, his goals per 90, and his shots per 90, which is only a marginal win, but still, nonetheless. And then most interestingly for me as well, he's actually winning on XG chain per 90, which is the total XG of every possession the players involved in per 90 minutes, which basically means that when Havertz has had the ball, Arsenal have scored slightly more goals. So yeah, it's very, very hard to have an agenda against this guy anymore or criticise him. Not that I ever did, just didn't think he was very good, and I've been made to look like an idiot. So yeah, Havertz needs to be ready when Arsenal get the ball in these wide positions to make that late run, ghosting behind Rodri, find that pocket of space in the box, and hope that the delivery is good enough for Havertz to convert. And I think that is the way that Arsenal are most likely to find the back of the net in transition when they do, hopefully with that pack 4-4-2 that I've suggested, win the ball in the middle of the park. Anyway, as you well know, on the Friday show, when I talk about another team, it's not just minutes of me rambling. We like to hear from someone else who could be a potential expert on a certain side or just football in general as well. And this week, it's someone who's an expert on football in general. It's a good friend of mine, a man called Umir, who you may well know from Twitter. He is an analyst and just generally someone with very good ball knowledge, to the point where he can retweet an old tweet from 3 years ago that everyone laughed at him for, and he's now been proven right. He's that kind of guy. So nonetheless, take it away, Umir.
I think Arsenal's out of possession play is interesting because, one, like City, they have the ball most of the game. So in terms of like true out of possession, sitting deep, it's a very rare thing that Arsenal have had to do this season. I think what we can look to really that is really impressive from Arsenal this season is how they've suffocated sides and sort of counter-pressed them in a way that sort of uses the players off the ball in a really like aggressive manner. So what we've seen in past seasons from City in a similar manner is we've had like a really good press in front three, and like that press has been backed up by a really energetic eights, De Bruyne, for example, and then you have like a front three of Bernardo Silva, let's say Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, players of that ilk who are really sort of aggressive and front-footed. And we saw it in our big like Champions League games. If you think back to the games against Real Madrid, for example, you know, a lot of our good chances and a lot of our sustained pressure would come from that like really high pressure, really aggressive pressing, and then backed up again by that midfield. I think what Arsenal have done this season, and it's a fair credit to Arteta and the board on that side, is they've brought in a team where they've kind of created this team that's really physical and able to cover grass like ridiculously well. So you've got that massive Declan Rice move, but the way he sort of like pounces on players and covers grass, like is ridiculous. Like even if you bypass the initial press, which is really impressive from sort of the likes of Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus, Saka, etc. You've got like a really tall, hardworking duo in Havertz playing, if he does play in that midfield role, and Rice, who Declan Rice for me is, I've said this sort of before he joined Arsenal, he's the best defensive midfielder out of possession. And we saw that in West Ham. You know the way that they used to play off the ball, play deep, and they had that success that they had last year, you know, in large part based on his ability to shuttle, you know, horizontally and shut out attacks. So when you're playing against Arsenal, they've got this sort of twofold, you know, defensive strength in one, that high pressure up the field, and then two, if they do lose it, in that really compact shape, you've got the likes of Gabriel, Havertz, Rice, Saliba, etc. The likes of those players who are really tall, really physical, and able to shut out space and minimize the gaps as much as possible. So for City, you'll be trying to find little areas where you can almost get Arsenal out of position and capitalize on like 1v1s, for example, because otherwise Arsenal are a team that will catch up to you out of possession and try and suffocate you when they have the ball via their sort of defensive shape.
But having said that, then going on to the goal threat, let's say Arsenal do transition, they hit City on the break. Where's their goal threat going to come from? Because in the video that I've talked about, I have said it's going to come from Kai Havertz. The stats have shown it recently.
Yeah.
Could it be someone else, or how do Arsenal best utilise Kai Havertz in a game like this?
I think one of the reasons why they would have brought Kai Havertz in the first place is the fact that they've basically had a team that's really good at sort of playing short and keeping the ball and sustaining pressure against, you know, most of, let's say, the bottom sort of 15 teams in the league. Against the top teams who have the ability to kind of keep the ball against you and pen you in a little bit. We've seen it from City as well. The ability to go, you know, not hoof it up, but almost play with, you know, a conscious like mind, but with the ability to like go long and find your strikers. So Havertz is a player who, unfortunately, like I hate to bring it up, but the Champions League final, when he scored against us for Chelsea, but the way he attacked on the break there, you know, really impressive. And in the big games, although he's a player who's sort of got his own sort of criticism and stick in the past, he's able to step up. And with his profile, I think he's someone who, like injuries permitting, if they can field someone in midfield instead of him, they'll probably play him up top in a game against Manchester City and decide to go long off him. We've seen Odegaard almost play a little bit deeper now, but we might see Odegaard almost play a little bit off Havertz up top, and then whoever the left winger is, hearing like reports that Martinelli might be out. If it's Gabriel Jesus fit on that side, running in and off him. So Havertz is sort of the outballer. He's sort of the biggest threat, particularly with some of City's defensive injuries. If he, you know, you play long to him, he holds it up and he releases someone else, and then you've got Saka who's decent in transition. Odegaard can run off him, and then if Gabriel Jesus plays, that rotation between Havertz and Jesus is going to be something that City will have to keep an eye on, particularly with their midfield sometimes being stretched, with Rodri kind of having this box-to-box role, but without that kind of Gundogan figure to cover in at parts of the season. If I'm going to give you a prediction, I would go. I'll go to. We're going to concede. I'll go 2-1.
2-1. Well, look, Arsenal fans, you're all watching this video, of course, and this is an Arsenal prop video. So I will obviously say 2-1 Arsenal for my in there. So anyway, thank you very much, Umir, for joining us. That was some fantastic insight. And yeah, we'll see what the result is on the weekend. Thank you very much, Umir. Now, I've just realised that I've actually recorded this the day before I've spoke to Umir, so I have no idea what you even said, mate. I should probably do this the other way round next week. Anyway, guys, yes, I hope you enjoyed the video. Arsenal City, bloody difficult one to call, but by next week, we might have a clearer picture of where the title race lies. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Have a lovely long weekend as well this time round with the bank holidays as well. Enjoy the football. I've been Adam Monk. Take care. I'll see you very, very soon. Goodbye.